Okay, well, I'm back again here for another quick video. And one of the questions that I have in my mind now with the changeover from the Joe Biden administration here in the United States to that of Donald Trump is federal interpretation of laws and whether laws are going to be enforced and how this impacts state and local law enforcement agencies. The county I live in, the sheriff came out the other day and said that it was time to give a, I guess, definition or the position of the county as far as law enforcement goes and immigration law. And he stated that he totally 100%, I'm paraphrasing here, supports the integrity of our borders and the enforcement of the borders by federal law enforcement, but that the county would help assist is in question. What I mean by that is his statements seem to imply that the county would not get in the way of federal law enforcement enforcing federal immigration laws, but that they would not do the job of the federal government. And why I'm saying I'm confused about this, or maybe this is just a overall confusion of where our laws begin and end, is if you look at the Constitution, we have a supremacy clause in the Constitution, and I believe this was discussed way back in like 1812 or something like that, that the law of the land was the federal law, and it held supreme over all state and local laws. So, if you are a law enforcement agency in the federal government, you take an oath of office to defend the constitutional laws of the land. If you are a local police officer, you take an oath to defend the Constitution and the laws of the land. And in looking at this as a federal supremacy issue, then it seems to me that the very basics of everything would be that if a law is wrong, if somebody has broken the law, whether it's a federal law or a state or local law, that the federal law would come into supremacy and that a law enforcement officer would be bound by their oath to arrest anybody that was breaking a law. But this has not been the practice. And I'll give you an example. Many people in the country believe that marijuana laws are wrong on the federal level, and so they did not enforce the strict interpretation of the marijuana law. They allow for marijuana to be sold in stores and so forth. And the federal government, on the other hand, has kind of let this go. Yet it is the law of the land that we have a law on the books that outlaws the possession and use of marijuana. Then you have the immigration law. Under the Joe Biden administration, and going back, I might add, law enforcement has pretty much turned itself away from enforcing strictly immigration law. Employers have gotten away with hiring people that are in the country legally. And yes, there are some laws on the books, but there's not been a strict enforcement of it. Well, the proof of that is that there are an estimated 11 million illegal immigrants in the United States, many of them working, many of them in your community, in my community, all across the land working. They rent houses, they buy houses, they participate in our society. But in reality, they're breaking the law by being in the country illegally. Now we've switched over to the Trump administration. And the Trump administration has been in effect for about 12 days, something around that, 13 days. And it's the position of the Trump administration, and Donald Trump ran on this as one of his mandates, that immigration laws were going to be enforced. He was going to shut the border down, and you can see by all the actions being taken place that he is in fact shutting the border down and enforcing immigration law. When it comes to the question like the term sanctuary city, where certain cities have to declare themselves over time sanctuary to people that are in the country illegally. Now, the Supremacy Clause says that a person in the country is illegal and a criminal, but these cities have refused to arrest and refused, in many cases, if not most cases, to cooperate with federal enforcement of immigration laws. So lots of illegal immigrants have obviously flocked to these cities because the city itself was going to protect them. Now the Trump administration has come out and said that if you are getting in the way of enforcing immigration laws, then you will be held criminally liable for it. And he's saying this to the officials in these towns, whether it be a mayor, a police chief, so forth. This is a complete turnaround from what has been the past practice of enforcing immigration laws for decades. Now, the question you'd say, and this comes up, I've read it in comments on articles in the paper, on YouTube, video comments, they're not criminals and they shouldn't be harassed by the federal government. They meaning the people that are illegal immigrants. But in numerous comments now, I'm hearing from President Trump's press secretary, federal officials, President Trump himself, if they're in the country illegally, they are a criminal, and criminals will be arrested. Again, there was confusion around this topic because originally a lot of people got the impression that when Trump was elected, that the government would go after dangerous criminals that have been convicted of crimes in the United States, and those people would be rooted out and deported. But then the comments changed over to, well, if we are out in the community enforcing immigration laws and we come upon a person that's in the country illegally, then they are a criminal and therefore we're going to arrest them. A recent news article came out and I saw a video on it. It was a news report from a TV station in California and an interview wherein a woman that was an illegal immigrant living in a house, I guess been there for a long time, family. She came out of her house to go to work in her car, and when she came out, there was ICE, immigration enforcement officers in the neighborhood, and it said that they were looking for an El Salvadorian, I believe it was, who they were going to arrest and deport. They questioned her, and one of the comments made was, well, what part of Mexico are you from? And I didn't really catch what was said, but apparently she mentioned that she was from Mexico, and they arrested her. Off she went. Now, neighbors in the neighborhood were filming this incident and interviewed. And it's like, well, she's not broken the law. Here we go again, the loop here. She has broken the law. The woman's, if she admitted that she was in the United States illegally, then according to federal immigration laws, again, the supremacy law of the land, you are a criminal because you broke the law. It would be no different than if you admitted that you had imported illegal drugs into the country or contraband of some kind, counterfeit merchandise into the country. You did that? Yes. Well, then you're a criminal. Well, wait a minute. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I never... So you see the confusion that's going on in the country right now, but there's no confusion in the mind of Donald Trump, his head of border, the border enforcement, that I've seen on numerous shows, and on and on and on. All of the federal agencies and administration people are parroting the same position that Donald Trump is parroting, is that you will be arrested and deported if you are apprehended illegally in the United States. Well, then it gets back to, well, are we going after illegal immigrants? Or are we simply going after the lawbreakers? And when this question is posed to the head of enforcement, he has said, if you're here illegally, you're a criminal, and we will deport you. So this has been the amount of enforcement has been increased. Which brings me back to the county that I live in. Yes, there's illegal immigrants in this county. Yes, these illegal immigrants work at jobs in the county, restaurants, construction sites, and so forth. No different than people that are legal citizens here. We're just a community like all other communities in the country. But when the sheriff comes out and makes a comment that he supports border enforcement, agrees with the federal immigration law, but says that the county police force, they will not do the job of the federal government. What impact will this have on our community? Because our community, like all communities, receives federal funds in the form of grants, transportation fees, just all sorts of interaction with federal funding for programs that our county and the town I live in uses. But if the Trump administration determines that my county and my town is not enforcing the federal supremacy, the laws, and is only going to, they're not going to get in the way of federal ICE agents, but they're also not going to enforce federal laws. This has gone from being a very gray area where people are turning their backs on enforcement to one where everything coming out of the Trump administration is indicating that if you are getting in the way or somehow are against what we're doing, that you are the bad people. And we're going to take action against you. But will the action include taking action against my community, my town, my county, and cut off federal funds, federal grants, federal loans, everything, because we're looked at as not cooperating because our police force is not going by their oath of office. See where I'm getting with this? If you're a local sheriff deputy or a local police officer and you took an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the laws, and that Constitution is of federal laws, which are the supreme law of the land, can you legally not arrest somebody that is an illegal immigrant without any federal agents around? Can you just, as a law enforcement agency, because of your sheriff's comments and position, say, well, we don't arrest people that are illegal immigrants? So if you pulled over, for example, a car, the driver of the car is an illegal immigrant. And in the course of the officer's conversation with the illegal immigrant, it becomes clear that this is an illegal immigrant in the country illegally, not a citizen of the United States. Now, there could be any number of ways that this information could bring to the officer's attention suspicion that he's dealing with a criminal. Remember, an officer only has to have suspicion that you've committed a crime to start taking action. See where this is going? I don't, frankly, I'm doing this video. I don't know where this is going. But it doesn't look like it's going to stay the status quo on many levels right now. And I think this needs to be addressed by every town and every law enforcement agency in the United States. Whether you're federal or state or local, whether you're the Fish and Wildlife officer, you're a local police officer, you are a forestry officer, whatever. If you have taken the oath of the Constitution to uphold the laws of the land, it doesn't say in that oath that, well, you can just go ahead and refuse to arrest somebody if they have a business that is selling marijuana, or you can refuse to arrest somebody that it says that it comes to your attention that they are not here legally. And I think this needs to be really brought out in every city council, every county commission, every state legislature, from the highest legal office to the lowest legal office in every state and local jurisdiction. What are we going to do as a nation of laws? You know, we are a nation of laws. Are we going to only enforce certain laws? Or are we going to pick and choose the laws we're going to enforce because of a particular changeover in the federal administration from one that did not enforce all the federal laws to one that is said that they're going to enforce 100% of the federal law? So that's my topic today. And feel free to leave a message. Hit and subscribe, my channel here. But let me think what you think about this in your community out there. I live in Nevada, to be clear, in a rural town in Nevada. It was my sheriff that came out with a video, first a Facebook page addressing the immigration enforcement issue, and then a video the other day that was broadcast on the news, the sheriff again says, I agree with the laws of the land. I fully support the enforcement of the border and so forth. But as a law enforcement agency, we are not going to do the job of the federal officer. Well, by taking that stand, I hope our sheriff has not put us in a precarious position, especially if somebody from the Trump administration happens to see the video, runs it past Donald Trump, because Donald Trump's in southern Nevada a lot. He's got the big Trump hotel. This question can be raised to him is, what about local people enforcing your federal mandates? If Donald Trump wants to get clear about this, he may very well make an example of my town, your town, whatever. So again, hit the subscribe button and let me know what you think, and we'll be back again with another video.